So we started looking at photosynthesis of cells, which of course is basically like, again, if we're thinking about this, this is we give a plant carbon dioxide and water. It's going to go through all the processes. It's going to spit out. This is a sugar, and then this is oxygen. That's what it's going to spit out. It's a really that's the most summarized way you can really do about it. And then we looked at the light dependent versus the light independent phases as well. Obviously, light dependent, that's where you need the light, converts that light into chemical energy, and then the light independent uses that chemical energy for stuff. We looked at the thylakoids within a cell. This is our chloroplast here, right? That's what makes things green in plants. Then we looked at the Calvin cycle, which is quite a complicated process here. In a nutshell, though, again, there's 4 steps here. We put in the CO2. We're going to get this, the PGAs. We're going to energize that with our batteries here, the ATPs and NADPH. We're going to get some different molecules. Then we take out 2 of those, and then the whole thing just starts all over again. Is really where it boils down to. Like I said, it's quite it's probably the most intense part of this course. So if that intimidates you, don't worry. Like we will be going to the much more logical and smoother units soon. Yeah, okay. So that's it for photos. We're almost done with our cells. We just have one more section, and it is specifically about cellular respiration. When we eat stuff, our cells need energy. Has anyone here ever gone for a certain distance run, like a 5 kilometer, a half marathon, a 10 kilometer, or something like that? Or maybe even like you were a hockey player or you were a skier or something. No one. Okay. Well, so basically we're going to start, if you ever work out, what happens to your arms, your legs over time while you're working out? They get tired, and what does it feel like when you get tired? You get stiff, you get sore, you can't move your legs as well. If you've ever had a really good leg workout, you don't walk right after, right? How come? If you've had a really good arm workout, has anyone ever had it where their muscles cramp up after? What does that? So that's what we're kind of looking at today, is how do those things work? How does that work? How do you get tired with it? And the other part of what we're going to be looking into today is alcohol. How is alcohol created? It's created with cells. It's done through, it's a certain process around it. So we're going to be looking at the science behind that as well. So today's kind of a 2-parter. Is we're going to be looking at how your cells use energy, and we're going to try and relate it to specifically you. How do you use energy, and what side effects are there? And then we're going to be looking at alcohol fermentation. So these are kind of our primary goals here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to end up reading 8.3, and then that's it. Then I think we'll be done for the cells. So what I'll have you guys do is I'll give you guys a chance to read 8.3. If you haven't been able to get to 8.2 yet as well, you'll be able to do that. I haven't uploaded the video yet, so I apologize. I'll do that tonight. So give you guys a chance to read 8.3. What, I'm 12:45 right now. At about, I'll say about 1:45-ish. It's flexible. I think we'll come together and talk about some of this stuff because it's kind of interesting what we can all do with it. So I'll give you guys about an hour there to read through 8.3 in your book. As well, there's the essentials read and check to do there. We're not doing those 1 pages anymore. There are a couple of pages. The goal of that is just to save you guys on some notes. Okay, so I'm going to set an alarm and we'll see you guys back in about an hour. So yesterday we started looking, and again, so this stuff should be in those documents as well. So I'm just trying to reduce the amount of notes you guys have to take. But Yeah, I don't think we need much here. So again, I'm not gonna like make you guys memorize this. You're not gonna be expected to. There is some chemistry here, but again, so what we have here is we give sugar and we give oxygen. What we're gonna get out of this is we're gonna get that CO2, carbon dioxide. We're gonna get water, and we're gonna get energy. Is basically how this cellular respiration works, right? So you give something sugar and oxygen, you're going to get out CO2, you're going to get water, and you're going to get the actual energy for it. So this happens in two different parts. So the first one is the anaerobic process. Oops. And anaerobic. So the first one's in the anaerobic process, but then we also have aerobic respiration. So this involves that thing called the Krebs cycle, which we will talk about here. Okay. So we get glycosis, we get aerobic respiration. We got there for just a minute. Okay, so so right here is we're kind of zooming in on this. So remember when I said like the mitochondria was that powerhouse of the cell? Yeah, that's going to be one of those things that's kind of stuck in your head. This is where a lot of this is taking place. The reason, again, we call it the powerhouse of the cell is because this is where that energy production takes place. So again, what we have here is an animal cell. We have all the different things in here. The mitochondria here is where we undergo this Krebs cycle. So basically, what ends up happening is this glucose. I'm going to step away from this for a second. This glucose gets broken down in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is all of that stuff that's in between, right? It's the fluid that's in between everything. So the glucose, which is sugar, is broken down in that cytoplasm through that glycosis process. So once that sugar gets broken down, you get two of those ATPs and two of those NADHs, which, if you remember correctly, are your batteries, right? So we have one molecule of sugar. It gets broken into four things. So you get one molecule of sugar and it's broken into two of those ATPs and two of those NADHs. I don't think we really need to care about that. Here we go. So the main thing here is the Krebs cycle. And that's just a shorthand way of this tricarboxylic acid cycle, which you're not going to need to memorize. It's going to always be referred to as the Krebs cycle. So don't worry about that. So basically the Krebs cycle here is when we take this pyruvate and we break it down into that carbon dioxide here. So here we have all of our steps. And so again, quite complicated here. So let's kind of break it down. So basically, before we start this Krebs cycle, so again, all that pyruvate, that's going to react with an enzyme. If you remember, an enzyme digests stuff. Your saliva is an enzyme. It's like it's an acid. It breaks stuff down. So this pyruvate gets broken down, and it's going to form this acetyl CoA. So this then moves into the mitochondria. So it's moving into the mitochondria here, and it's going to combine to form citric acid. So it comes in and it forms citric acid. So then what's going to happen with the citric acid is it's going to further break down, and you're going to get some carbon dioxide, and you're going to get that ATP and that NADH, again, your batteries. So what are you getting? You're getting carbon dioxide and you're getting energy. If you think about that very first equation we did, this is what you really need to know. The specifics, of course, are really important, but you'll understand the Krebs cycle if you remember that, oh, I'm just putting this stuff in and I'm getting this stuff out. So then we eventually end up getting that CoA, citric acid, that's generated, and the cycle continues. Again, it's a big circle here, right? So it's a never-ending cycle. You just take out some of the energy that you need. Okay. When we have aerobic respiration, we also have that electron transport. And so that's a really important thing when it comes to that breakdown of those sugars. You think glucose, you think sugars. Don't need to know that, that's fine. Don't really need to know that. It's helpful if you do, but like it's like some people find it helpful to remember it, but not vital. Okay. Again, so this is just here, again, that electron transport. That was something we learned the last couple of days here, as we transport electrons from the cell to outside the cell. So this electron transport, basically those prokaryotic cells undergo it. Some of them do anyways, but they don't have those mitochondria. They don't have those powerhouses. They don't have those generators. So instead they use that cellular membrane as a way to do that. So that's this thing here, right? So when you don't have oxygen available, you can't go through that glycosis. So you need oxygen with it. So what's going to happen after our glycosis is we go through fermentation. And I think we have a pretty good idea of what fermentation is, right? Every alcohol in the world is made with fermentation. Lots of cheeses, well, every cheese is, not every cheese, lots of cheeses, lots of foods undergo that. You know, it's a very traditional way of preserving things, or trying to enhance the flavor or create new products. So fermentation happens in that cytoplasm of the cell. So this is where we kind of come together. We're going to be bringing in something called lactic acid and fermentation. So lactic acid, again, if you guys ever do some hard physical labor, you ever work out or something like that, your muscles get really stiff, right? They hurt after a while. That's a lactic acid buildup. So this is what makes your muscles sore. There are a very rare number of people in the world who do not get lactic acid when they work out. They can literally run 100 kilometers. Like I think the world record, a guy ran like 100 kilometers or something, one sitting, like 24 hours straight. And he felt totally fine afterwards. So these enzymes convert that pyruvate during that glycosis into lactic acid. So basically, that pyruvate just ends up turning into lactic acid. I'll just write that there. So in your muscles, I know it says skeletal muscles here, but that's just, if you remember from Health Science 20, that's just your primary muscles. So when your muscles make that lactic acid, it's a result of using energy. This is when your body can't supply enough oxygen. So when you're working out really hard, you're breathing deep in and out, right? Your body's struggling for air. That's why you're gasping for air when you're really hard exercising. So that means your body's not getting enough oxygen to supply to your cells. Because again, energy needs oxygen. You do not get that oxygen without, sorry, you do not get that energy without the oxygen. So that's why you pant harder and harder. It's your body's way of trying to get that stuff. So when it doesn't have enough oxygen, you make that lactic acid, and that's what causes your muscles to get sore. This is why you can walk a lot farther than you can run, right? Because when you're going for a nice casual stroll, you're not overworking your muscles in the same way. You're able to still give your muscles enough fuel so they have enough oxygen. So it's only when you do not have that oxygen that this lactic acid builds up. And then, of course, we have alcohol fermentation. So this happens primarily in yeast and also some bacteria. So again, if you're thinking of making like a beer or a wine, you have to put in some kind of yeast. Typically, there needs to be some type of yeast introduced to it. You can't just take a bunch of grapes, throw in a barrel, and then plug it up, and you're going to come back to wine. It doesn't work that way. You need something to be digesting the stuff there. So that's what this yeast does. So it's going to convert that pyruvate into the alcohol and the carbon dioxide. Has anyone here ever made beer or wine before, or know someone who has? You have to put something on the top of it. Like if you think like a standard, if you think of like a standard, I don't know, like imagine this is a jug where you like brew wine in or something, like crude drawn. You have to put something up here that's going to allow those gases to escape. Otherwise, you've built a bomb, is really what's happened, and it will explode. So you put a seal in there that lets stuff go out, lets air go out, specifically the carbon dioxide, but it does not let stuff go in. So this is something that's really important in alcohol production. There's a guy who always shows up on my reels, and he makes wine out of like Mountain Dew and stuff, and that's something he forgot to do one time, and the bottle literally exploded one day. So I like this image here because it kind of shows the differences. So over here, we have our plants, we have photosynthesis, and then over here we have cellular respiration, us. And you might be looking at this and you're like, what the heck's going on? Like what does this all mean? It's just kind of showing the difference between, in plants you have your chloroplasts that generate your energy, and in animal cells, or non-plants, I guess is a better way of putting it, you have the mitochondria doing it. But it's still the same thing. They go through a cycle, they generate that ATP. They both have an electron transport system. So they are similar in a way. Okay, so let's start going through some of this stuff here. So I got a couple questions here. In fact, let me just condense them all in one. Yeah, there's my fourth one. Oh, there we go. So I just got 4 questions here. You don't need a lot of space between them. I'd probably say just like 2 lines would be more than plenty. So not a lot. Probably just 2 for each one. So I'll give you a minute just to do that. Pause this. Got to start recording again.
Okay, so our next question here was asking about carbons and our glucose molecules. So how many carbons from one of those glucoses enter into that Krebs cycle? So there are 3 of them that end up getting processed there. I wish I would have put the image in here. Yeah, no, it's fine. So again, there's 3 of those that go in there, and then these other 3 enter a separate cycle. So again, it is a big loop. You have to put some back into the system. You only take out 3 of them. The other 3 go back into the system. Oh. So next one here is, so how are these high energy electrons used in that electron transport? So what ends up happening is that electron transport, those are transferred from the NADH to the FADH2. Those convert that ADP into the ATP. They convert this into our batteries. You see ATP, you think batteries. And finally, our last one here. Oh, oops. How is fermentation used in maintaining that ATP and those NAD plus levels? So chemically speaking, during fermentation, those NADHs donate the electrons for regeneration. Another way of thinking about it, again, let's turn this into common sense, common language. Fermentation leads to more sugars, right? If I have a green banana on the counter, I don't want to eat that. I want a nice sweet banana. So what am I going to do? I'm going to leave it on my counter for a week. I'm going to come back to a nice yellow, sweeter banana. it sits there, it ferments, it gets sweeter. The same thing happens with alcohols. You have to let it fully ferment, which takes time. There's a couple seconds here. Okay, so what's going to happen tomorrow is there'll be two things. So one is we are going to have a chapter 8 quiz. That'll be open book, so don't panic about that. It's open book, you can use everything, it's just like the chapter 7 quiz. And then the other one is what we're going to start doing is we're going to start looking at some practice exam questions with this stuff. Because again, you know, when like everyone's going to be taking a multiple choice like final exam, what does that mean? Like, what are they going to be expecting us to know? So we'll actually start looking at some examples of those, and we'll start working through the processes of how we can start to solve that, because we have less than 5 weeks left. So you guys are well over a third done the course now. So we'll end up working on a practice exam tomorrow as well. Looking into next week, there is another cell unit. I'm going to see if we can kind of maybe skip that though for now, or move to a little bit later. But we will be starting a new unit either way, starting Monday. As well for you online students. I don't need it now. In fact, don't send it to me now. But I am going to request from you guys sometime next week. I'm just going to need a mail-in address, because you're going to be mailed a package for an activity that we're going to do in a couple of weeks. I do not need it right now. I don't want it right now, but next week I am going to ask for that. So I'm just going to need to know your mail-in address next week. But that's it for today. Yeah, so you guys have a wonderful afternoon here.